some people ask me, like, what really, because I came, you know, like, but you just asked me,
what are we doing?
It's so nice that you came anyway, you know, in that situation. But let me try to kind of tell you what I think, because I also don't know exactly, but you know, like my understanding of what's going on. On a more practical, let's not start with the more practical. Come on, it's summer. On a more to the core level, let's say this way. Like when somebody tells you that they have to think about something, or they just come and tell you, oh, I've been thinking, or I have to, like, whatever, like the sentence is, how this activity, this verb, thinking, is used, it's usually pictured as some kind of, you know, operation to be performed on a set of data, something like that. I don't know, maybe it's too computational what I'm saying now. But it sounds like, okay, you have a situation, you have a kind of landscape where this thinking is happening, you have data, you have either a problem or just a mess, and you either have to like do something to solve this problem. So for example, make a decision, or like figure something out, or do some kind of Sherlock Holmes, you know, reasoning, and have this, you know, this answer. So it will be either your decision or just your understanding of what is happening. Like you know, like things are happening, and you kind of have to think about it. And then when you have done that, you have connected the dots. So you have kind of an understanding. So it's.
And we all wish it was like this.
Yeah, it is in a sense like this because it's, you know, painted like this. So it's imagined like this. It's narrated like this. You know, and in that sense, it kind of, you know, exists as a concept, but that's it. so it's like another, you know, object of thought. But when you think like what is it that you are like? What is this input? What is this data? And what is this landscape in which the thinking happens? You know, like the thinking is performed on. So what is like? Where does it come from? You know, like you end up thinking. You know, maybe you are, but you know, like you're standing in front of a tree and thinking about it. Sometimes maybe, but you know, like what? It's not so easy to you know, to say, oh, just you know, data, you know, because it's something else which appears in your mind or is somewhere in the society. Somebody tells you, and when you think about like what is the input for thinking, is something we know or we've heard or somebody told us. We've been, you know, socialized into specific landscape. The situation is like that. The values are like that. We've been like, you know, like even more personally. We've been socialized into the concept of what we are in that landscape and what we want, what we are supposed to know. Because otherwise, like, why would you think at all? Why would you want to perform an operation if you are not doing it as something in that landscape? So something that wants to do something, or like, why bother them? You know, like it would be everything and nothing. And so you have this this concept of the self, of what the self wants. You have like of the others and what the situation and the problems and the goals and organizations and, you know, society and whatever. And then, you know, there's this thinking operation. So, like, for me, you know, like, a kind of mind-blowing realization is that, like, when you think about all those objects and all that landscape, how does it exist? So, like, you kind of become aware of something like this sound, like this kind of humming, you know, processors, you know, like, doing that, right? It's like our mind, like, you know, like we are kind of like what is France if not, the outcome of some kind of, like ongoing, distributed, repetitive operation of minds, that kind of sustain this object, right? And of course, it's not just, thinking, it's speaking and acting, but it's kind of, like, where does this acting come from? And so like, for me, the amazing thing, like, when you think about thinking, is kind of this humming sound in the background of everything, like, we are doing that, and we are kind of building and sustaining all that landscape in which we think that now we think, like we are just, like, oh, we have found ourselves, and like let's think now, and when you have, and of course, like, education won't be, and socialization and whatever won't be called the school of thinking. It's a school about something already. So it kind of becomes kind of concealed that you will be now, sustaining this landscape and this reality by the fact that you will be thinking this way. This kind of is out of the picture. The education is that, oh, okay, the world is composed of this and this and this and this, and you perform this and this and this operation on it. Without, like, telling you that, you are being asked to perform this operation continuously for the whole system to hold true and to be exactly the way you've been taught it is. And so we're kind of, so the question is, like, what, like, when you know that, like, what do you do about thinking, and like, what do you do with all those academic positions, some of us still have.
Or trying to get, not even have. The way to.
Yeah, and some maybe will, and some, like, just forget about it. So, like, what do you do? Like, what do you do with kind of this? It's such a difficult question, because once you, like, start to, like, do anything about it, you just, like, create another kind of conceptualization, another landscape, and you will be teaching people that. So,
the Zen koan I always say.
What?
Before enlightenment, pour water, chop wood. After enlightenment, pour water, chop wood.
Exactly.
So before enlightenment, you're doing your thing, and then you just continue doing the same thing.
So, but like, but the question is, like, what do you do? Like, because, like, let's go fishing, like, it doesn't make sense really, like, to play those, social games and, like, like, be so, like, in it, and so if you don't have this idea, what else you can do? But, like, for me, it's more of a question than an answer. No idea, like, I have this, like, kind of, like, whenever, like, the idea of, like, learning to think comes up, a school of thinking, you have, like, all of a sudden you have new frameworks and new models, and okay, let's see it like this, and some are good and some are, like, kind of, better, but anyway, like, it's like another layer of reality. Let's see reality in this way, let's see it in this way, and here, like, now we'll have this heuristic, so we are so advanced thinkers because we haven't had it, like, interlinking the things in this way, and now we have it. So, like, and of course it does something and makes something possible which wasn't there, but, like, it's in a way more and more, more away from the awareness that you are sustaining all those levels of reality. You are, like, kind of compressing them, yes, but doesn't give you a handle on, like, what to do, like, how to, like, simultaneously act in this landscape and be aware that you are creating it, and and of course, the one existing solution is just go away, and just disengage and just, like, be that monk somewhere in a mountain, city, and because it's kind of all illusion and whatever, And another maybe more frequently traveled path is just get drunk. They kind of, they disengage in different, like don't care, like escape and whatever, or get completely, mad and just, like, but because if you start seeing reality as kind of like more product of thought than what you think in that thought that it so strongly exists, you cannot take it too seriously, or you start taking this kind of realization too seriously, and so on, and you become sort of, not on the same page with others, to say it mildly, like so like you like to be, and this is the serious one, to be with others, and we want that. You cannot like create another reality in your thought and just dwell in there. You can, but you become, you are not with them, right? So like the power for like the reason, the powerful reason for us sticking to like what's being produced just by our minds is because others are doing that. Like we could just agree that France maybe is dangerous territory, but Belgium doesn't exist.
Not a few days before you're going to win the
This is why like
yeah, don't put
and we could agree that United States don't exist, and we could say that there are no universities, corporations, and anything like that, and like that money doesn't do anything because it's just paper and numbers and digits. We could agree on it, but like why is it that like we still go back to that, reality?
We want to go to lunch.
We do, and the thing is, the guy out there in the restaurant could just give us that lunch, but he believes in it. So like we kind of, convergence, mechanism makes us kind of look if we have money for lunch, because it's just that not everybody agrees to start thinking differently. So like, if you think about this kind of intervention into your own thinking, it will take you only as far as you can do it with others, and you can transform it into some kind of agreement with others or coordination with others. So like, if not just solitary thinking in a free and completely unconstrained way, then this what you want to think differently kind of needs communication and needs to touch others, to play with you. So I don't know if it like probably doesn't answer too much about the question, like what like
I think it's,
what's going on.
I think from what you're describing, it's about meaning. At the end, like you were saying, and I've also run through some of these operations myself, like, when you find out the world is just appearances, why not just become a monk? And also the problem, for example, of that I think Nietzsche ran into with nihilism. So like when God is dead, then there opens up this huge, enormous problem of meaning, precisely. And sort of seeing the illusion and the appearances, sort of, you lose a depth, you lose a density in your engagement with the world. I often relate to this in terms of like, I think about Christmas morning when I was 5. There's a type of meaning, there's a type of intensity of enjoyment that you have Christmas morning when you're 5 versus Christmas morning when you're 25.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, there's like this unbearable emptiness.
You hear the humming when you're 25,
yeah,
like kind of,
yeah, it's like, okay, the appearances are moving.
Yeah.
and so forth. And but there's a failure of meaning in some sense. But I want to just give a quick example of like this intervention limited by the others, which is like I was debating with my best friend one morning precisely about Christmas and Santa Claus, and she's raising her daughter, and she's basically saying, I don't want to lie to my daughter. I don't want to say that Santa Claus is real and that there's a man who's transcending space and time and bringing presents and stuff like this. I just want to say, I just want to totally secularize the whole thing, basically, and like wondering whether that's a good thing or whether we're taking something away by doing that. And I think that like this is an interesting problem to think also for religion, which is, you know, do we need this extra phantasmatic layer? Do we need this extra surrealistic layer? And even once we see through the sort of the surrealism of meaning, like even with capital, which is kind of like a virtual fantasy game that we all agree to play. Is it merely that we have this opening to construct our own surrealistic fantasies in some sense? Like, yes, we don't need to play the game of Santa Claus and Christmas, but I don't think that means we should just sort of subtract that layer of reality. I think we should. Well, I don't know if we should, but I think the idea I'm playing with is how creative can we get with that layer of reality?
Let's get wild or something.
Let's get how can we, you know, the idea I had reading Ralph Waldo Emerson when I started my PhD was he said the sun shines today in relation to the fact that we always look to the ancients for our transcendental meaning when, of course, that meaning emerged spontaneously in their own time, and I think we can still sort of create our own phantasmatic rituals. The things that spontaneously attract us. Like when we were talking a few weeks ago, it was kind of like you should go, even though reality is just a game or social reality is just a game. It doesn't mean it's a meaningless game. You know, you should orient yourself in relationship to what really emotionally pulls you in terms of meaning, and let that guide you in some sense. That there's still some mystery about history, and I think that's why I'm here. Is that to me the important thing to think today is precisely why bother engaging meaningfully and intensely in the appearances, and I think that maybe that's why we're here.
An interesting question is, can we do otherwise? Everybody who meditates comes to this point, hearing voices or things like that. So is it embedded in our nature, or is it a cultural thing? Is it grown? Yes, and over time, what's going on there?
Susan.
Yes.
Sorry for being late.
We'll forgive you this time.
Thank you. Thank you, Kennedy.
You know, we can construct. We were saying we can construct all our own rules, and there's no limitations.
Yeah. So yeah.
We're still trying to answer why are we here.
Right. Yeah.
So now a more like practical take, maybe to like kind of add some layer to it. You know the practical thing starts with the question like what can we do like in our workplaces, in academia, in wherever we are, you know, like engaged in this kind of teaching research situation, that maybe we could produce together a kind of educational framework, educational program that would be able, but it's so elusive, but you know, like kind of be able to teach people to think. It sounds so fun, like not just operate within a framework we'll give them, but like think while acting, and think like be aware of the fact that they are like what they are putting in their thinking, and that they like the fact that they are doing it, and like and what difference does it make that when they become aware of it? Like what difference they can make, and how differently they can do it think and interact and communicate with others when they are, you know, much more aware of the fact that that the input for thinking or input for communication, they are kind of, you know, conditioned to take for granted is their selection as well, or other people's selection as well. What different, like what kind of difference would it make in their interaction with the world? You know? And not only on this, it's easy, it's sort of easy on the individual level. It's much more difficult, like when you come together and want to build an organization or an educational program for that matter, or have a project which you know, like is an agreement on a specific landscape, that we will be doing that, and we will have this kind of conceptual object and this kind of object, and our goal is like that, and we agree on it. And this is kind of an object of thought, and we agree on it. How could we build organizations, and how could we build an educational program which is kind of self-aware of its construction? So it's kind of looping inside. And I don't know how far we can take it.
How can we build hysterical organizations?
Exactly.
Oh my God.
And also, you know, and this one is also easy, you know, because there are many organizations that just, you know, like don't know what they are doing, you know. And the question is like even more difficult and even more ambitious, like how to make it into a very good organization and strong, you know, and not just a meeting and not just a week in London, Paris, but like how about, you know, like having a framework, an educational framework that would be able to develop educational programs in multiple locations, in many universities, you know, build master programs for students, continuous education programs for professionals, maybe some kind of research, you know, agenda to it, and be sustainable and become a part of education, of the official education, and do not, you know, just become a layer of conceptualization itself, which is a very easy way to do.
I was going to say that, like, how I relate to what is going on is something that I reflected on deeper, because 2 weeks ago I went to the University of Exeter, and they're building a global systems institute, and we had like some workshops with people who were basically asked, what should the Global Systems Institute be? And I felt like in that, just observing that workshop, what I took away from what I could bring to the thinking school is it's kind of like trying to think an education program with no a priori schema, like where the people aren't coming to hear a pre-programmed conceptualization schema, but it's precisely the value of the program is what the people bring to it, and so like that's, I mean, I think what we're going to be experimenting with in the next 5 days. It's, I mean, these next 5 days are going to be as good as all the energy here and all the people here and the way we interact and the way we share with each other. And if we can come up with new ideas together through our own interactions, then it will be a success. I think, and that there's nothing that, it's not necessarily that any schema or any ideas we come up with here will solidify and become the new thing. It's, you know, it's you know, if we were to run a program at University of Exeter, if we were going to run a program somewhere else in Europe or whatever, the program would be the subjects who come to the thing.
Yes, and this is like another layer of like pragmatics that we need to kind of address. That, you know, like prototyping situation. What are we prototyping? We are building a program, like a program of a summer school while participating in it. If it's actually a good job, and if we are doing the prototyping, what we'll end with in the last day will be a completely different thing than what we have in the agenda. The idea how, you know, a program could be arranged, and what should be in there, and how, you know, taught, and so on, Like if we are simultaneously participating and creating the program, we'll have a different program on the last day than we have today. And should be, because that would mean that we've been actually playing with the form, not only participating in it. But you know, like then for example, you know, like the thing is that to develop a program in a specific location or an educational program which will be a partnership situation, like externally funded or something like that, we need to have a longer curriculum for a year or two for the students. So in that sense, what we will be trying here should be more like a, you know, like a seed for the other initiatives, and I hope there will be more than just one, you know, like central that will certainly put a project together. But other than that, I think it would be very nice, and you know, like it's always a challenge because you need institutions, you need organizations to get involved, to like put it somewhere, you know, and make it stick. But what would be good if we found ways to do that together and. Can plan the program we develop.
It's like double then. Like, what's the space? What's the space of fertilization that exists? The seed metaphor, and what plants can we grow? I mean, how crazy can the plants be?
Did we do
We will now.
okay.
So the question to you, let's maybe start chatting a bit. Is
No, let's still be authoritarian. We're the only ones who are talking. They're not allowed to talk.
Okay. So
ask your questions. Yeah. So, what do you want to deliver with this next editions of this summer school, or with franchises in universities? These people that are capable of being aware of how they think, how thinking works in themselves, versus thinking in others as well, as you said, the humming. Is that so? It's a practical thing in that sense, or is it like knowing about how thinking works? No.
I think when I was going through university, I don't think what I lacked in the university was, I feel like you lose the sense that actually you're the creator, or like, you know, you think the university has the creative power or the knowledge, but it's coming from you, and I think like that would be an interesting flipping of that process.
But swimming is to learn how to swim is a scary process.
Yes.
Like to learn how to think.
Yes,
And
it's
yet
a
you need a
scary
swimming
process.
pool. You know, you need like a square with water in it. So
It is a terrifying process.
you have to start somewhere.
And this
The
this
backdrop,
kind of,
the backdrop to my question is making and us doing kind of exercises, or you know, like
You mean this one?
this particular one, but later editions as well.
I think.
How would you envisage?
Like for me, this one is absolutely training, not a course. And we are like training. Like it is a double training because we are training to train.
Train the trainer.
Train the trainer while training. And then like the thing is, I've no idea. Like what should be the educational output? Like should we teach courses? Should we do this kind of like more experiential learning? I hope we'll like after the week we'll have a like better sense of it. How and what exactly we want to achieve. And it's kind of open-ended, and maybe I'll not do what you are asking for. I know you like to listen to me, but let's hear, because like what you are asking, I think the answer should like kind of self-organize from what people want to. If you are asking about the outcome, like we'll see what outcome like is intended by everybody, and we'll see what we can produce. So. My question to you, like to each of you, is like, what brought you here, and why bother?
Should we start?
And
Let's go. Should we do rant? How people feel?
Maybe let's go like with a round. It would be like maybe easier.
Sure.
Let's stick to the old ways.
No, I'm intrigued by this idea that is like there's a bit of a mystery. There's a bit of a mist around this thinking thing.
You're a clever
We're
one.
very good at this Santa Claus style poetry. Yeah, so well, I'm doing a PhD in about what a firm is, a company, and so there's a lot of that. You know, how people think, how much wider ideas lead up via people to the firms that we currently have, and so this is intriguing. So I find it intriguing, and I hope to contribute some experience in a previous career with designing trainings and having received lots of training. So I hope to contribute in practice in that way.
So I guess I have, from what I've heard, a different background than most of you, because I'm a theoretical physicist, and I'm also one of the few who actually lives in Paris, I think. So what got me started is that you just start doing your courses and going through the motions, basically. You don't get it at all. And then somewhere along the way something clicks and you get it. And I'm not quite sure why or how. Or you just, you know, you see things and you think, oh wow, I can never do that. And then 3 years later you're suddenly doing it like it's easy. So somewhere along the way there's this transformation of all kinds of separate ideas into a bigger framework. And I was kind of interested in that. And I read Thinking Fast and Slow. And that was quite interesting in terms of, because especially a lot of stuff for me is very, you know, talking, and what Thinking Fast and Slow did for me, it did it in a very deliberate way with experiments and everything and really showed it. And that to me, as a physicist, because we're trained to be skeptical to everything, was very interesting. So that's why when I heard about this, it was interesting.
Yeah, so I'm very interested because I'm actually fascinated by how people can understand each other when they don't speak the same language. I mean, it may seem very trivial, but I've been into countless situations where people who really want to achieve similar goals get together and start by saying, let's define a common language and let's define shared values and a shared vision, and they spend hours to conceptualize stuff. And it kind of maybe works after lots and lots of work, but it doesn't last very long, or it's a loss of energy. So I was very interested by the whole reality thing that you were talking about. And yes, we all have different realities, but how can we find a ground where we can share our realities without giving up any of it? And I think this type of thinking or thinking together can lead to some ways of doing that.
Maybe this refers to something I am interested in to find here, maybe, that we can find a program that is not only enabling people to play with their thoughts and become aware of it, or become the creators of it and free from it, and always maybe become aware of this constructivity of thoughts, but also to embed them, and also to emphasize maybe the side of attachment, but attachment to what? Maybe not attachment to all these little constructions, but or I'm interested in talking about that, or in talking about what is the self that is thinking, and
where does this self attach, and how can we free from it without losing ourselves, or without becoming too crazy, or becoming detached from the social, but re-embedded always again. That's, yeah, what I'm interested in here. Sorry?
May I ask the name? Because
Thjörven. I'm Thjörven.
Thjörven.
Yeah, I'm from Germany, and I'm doing my PhD near Berlin, and I'm also involved with the ECHO group.
Ah,
A little, yes.
and it's a PhD in what?
I am a sociologist, and I work on a project on crisis and resilience and consultancy. Yeah.
Maybe before we give reason, just do a quick introduction as well.
Hello, my name is Stefan, coming from Austria. What brought me here? Helen. She introduced me to Marta, and then I met Stefan. I was intrigued by the call. I perceived it as a call when you said we want to gather and we want to create something. As I found the first context with the people I found very interesting. So I just assumed it will be getting more and more interesting the more and more people are. Because this is my personal experience that through these personal relations you kind of collect I don't know what people knowledge moments, but you so I do assume through the connections that okay there will be more interesting, more wonderful people, and then but then also the topics, of course, when it got conceptualized. I was then a little bit, of course, skeptical. Because so many concepts, then there are so many overlaps in the concepts, and then, ooh, this is fun. So, yeah, my personal background is at the very moment I am the director of the Bertalanffy Center in Vienna. We are small, but it seems we have created some good awareness, and we're working, of course, in systems science. Sorry, Bertalanffy Ludwig von was a biologist who created this general systems theory, and we are safeguarding his heritage. So actually, we have an archive of everything from private to public of Ludwig von Bertalanffy place. And we're doing historical research on that. So we are not only interested in the publications that actually are available, but how did they come into being. So it was most interesting, for instance, who he met and with whom he had then these conversations, and where have been these influences of conceptualization. But this is the work we're doing history, and we do a present work. We have the mission to strengthen system science again, and there we're working with the largest organizations in the world who are engaged in system science. And so it came to be that somebody said, Stefan, you run this quite well, would you please support a so-called International Federation for Systems Research, where I'm now also General Secretary, and where I want to support the people so that they can have the environments they need to create meaningful knowledge. There is a long history how I got there. I will tell that whenever you want. Interestingly, you also saw on the internet that I am responsible for a Buddhist organization in Austria. And usually I say that here, because I need to distinguish myself always between these two worlds. I don't bring them together usually. So my Buddhist practice, which is now about 18 years, is my private practice. And I do not engage with scientists usually about Buddhism. It is fun when we then learn through the evening conversation that we have the same interest, or even we are practitioners for I don't know how many years. And then we're like, this is why we are like arguing or conceptualizing or not conceptualizing at once.
Well, no, I'm always interested in emergence, to see how a system's complexity is rising up to another kind of quality. And for almost 30 years now, I've been looking for other people interested in this kind of stuff, not stuck in one model, but capable to switch from one experience to the other, from one mindset to the other. And we have been, my husband and I, we have been working on a language which can be spoken by humans and AI. And one of the results, lasting results, is we have created artificial life forms. So I'm here to see how I can relate what they are doing with what is happening here, and to learn more about how systems are working. And yeah, that's practically it.
You three, the artificial life forms.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they are. I will show them to you. They are quite interesting, and they do what we do. They are not talking yet, but, we can demonstrate how systems are functioning, and some thought processing possibly. We will see.
So funny,
Like just drop it in there. Like it's like I had a oatmeal for breakfast this morning. I created an artificial life form. No big deal. I met with aliens this morning.
I actually did
They
this.
weren't that interesting.
Did this for my whole life. I always was interested in how others are experiencing their world. So I went Buddhist, I went Zen, I went Muslim, I went Christian, and tried this with every political ideology to learn what is it. Yeah, what is driving us? What is the sense making? What are the sense making processes? And this, what you said, this humming, yeah, is always there, and we are creating something from it. And it's actually, from our perspective, quite simple. On the other hand, it gets more complex by the day. But these artificial life forms, they are basically created with fundamental knowledge of systems theory, so it's not so complicated or difficult as it sounds.
If somebody says, "Oh, it's system theory, not complicated," come on, that's the breakfast joke in us.
I'm just not on that level yet.
Don't make me blush.
It's so nice.
Okay. Okay, so I guess first of all what brought me here is that I am incredibly impressed. Like, what a group. It's quite a number of facets to it. My name is Seifan, originally from Italy, currently living in Israel. Background, I started as a physicist, but not theoretical, empiricist, experimental, and from there I moved quite a lot. At the moment I work with complexity urban planning and design, and I actually teach complexity to designers and urban planners. I met Marta a few years ago, and it was such a deep pleasure to work together that I'm finding every good excuse to continue it. I'm very much interested in looking at this process of thinking, this process that makes us and the world that makes us, so on and so forth. from what I heard till here, I think we have many different pairs of eyes, which can be a really, really interesting exploration. And what I will contribute here, I am bringing over some design because it's a fantastic methodology of interaction and some of all those.
So my name is Baltazar, and I'm here first of all because I was invited by Weaver, which couldn't be here, and also by Marta. And I say it because I think that it's a very integral part of thinking. It's the other, the otherness. Maybe myself is the otherness, but the relation, we cannot escape from the relation. We don't want to, and it's a motivator and initiator of thinking. My background, I'm a medical doctor. I do not practice medicine, so if you faint, don't come to me. In recent years, I'm lecturing about the brain, so as I told you, I can ask you how do you feel and what happens in your brain, but not more than this. And I also always see myself as a bridge between scientific knowledge and then experiential knowledge or philosophical knowledge, and this is what I find interesting here.
So my name's Kevin. I feel I'm probably the dumbest person in this room, but I will try to step up my game. So I work at OECD, specifically in the Observatory for Public Sector Innovation. So we are working with governments all across the world trying to help them change mindsets. I wouldn't say it's really around, we could say it's around skills because we talk about design skills a lot, but really it's around changing that mindset and changing and being able to be open to trying new things and doing new things and approaching it in new ways. We talk a lot about how governments really like to feel that every problem is easily solvable. If you do 1 + 2 + 3, you're always going to get 6, and we're trying to explain to them, especially in today's world, that that's not true. And so how do we embed this within an organization? How do we embed it across an entire system and get people to change and be more responsive to what citizens in the world is demanding today? Not the easiest task. We've had some good experiences and bad. We've been around for about 5 years. I've personally been here in Paris working on this for about 9 months, and before was in the U.S. Doing this with the U.S. federal government. So I'm here primarily to learn from you all. A lot of these topics are topics that we're talking about at national and subnational government levels. But it's really interesting to hear how other people are doing this, how other people are thinking about it, how other people have had experiences trying to teach others about this at an individual and organizational level. So yeah, and I'll hopefully be able to bring some practical experience of how governments and systems are trying to do this, mostly not well, but trying to do this.
Yeah. Hello, so I'm Suzanne. I'm the local person, so this is why I'm late this morning. So I'm a researcher in humanities in the CNRS. I'm not really interested in teaching, even if I'm teaching in the university in Paris 3. What brought me here is more the how we can engage with citizens, how research and innovation can be spread in society, and how, for me, it's not a question of teaching, but more a question of co-creation, so how we can share knowledge and how we can create a kind of mechanism to work with at a different level of society. So, and I'm sure I will learn a lot with our discussion during the week, so yeah.
two more things I wanted to say before we move to your module. One is about our program. You've seen that. The question, the logistic question about the weekend, we still need to decide and address, because I really had no idea about that there's football in the world and there's mundial and so and it changes things, right? When you know that.
Why don't we teach them the World Cup construction that they're putting there? They're just putting the World Cup there. That doesn't need to. We don't need to do the World Cup.